if you can be productive like yesterday, that means at least we won't even feel that today we have 11 candidates. But I think the other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that next week,
Recording in progress.
on the 29th, we'll be dealing with our deliberations of our report for consolidating all the results of the interviews that we are doing from today up until Friday. So I'm sure what has happened is that when we adopted the report, Uneliswa is saying we have put it as a visual meeting, but it's not going to be a visual meeting. We're going to be here on the 29th. You know, honorable members, that when we deliberate on the outcomes of the interviews, it takes long. So it's better when we are in one room and we are able to discuss, and I'll also allow our staff to consolidate everything. So if it's visually, it's not going to be easy for us. So we're going to be here. And then on Wednesday, the 30th, because we'll be adopting the report, that means we can do it visually, or we can be here, and other members like Honorable Mpiti, who will be having another meeting, he can join us visually. But if we want to be here on Wednesday still, we can come in the morning, adopt our report, and then we leave. So so we can allow those honorable members like Honorable Mpiti and I think the chair for NCOP, Honorable Gillion, because she's still in isolation, she can also be allowed to be on visual platform. And Honorable Ndongeni, I'm not sure what is your schedule next week, but if you are not able to come on Wednesday, you can be on visual platform. But the ones that must be present, then they can be present physically on Wednesday. So I just wanted to bring to your attention, honorable members, that there was that thing that was raised with me by Uneliswa. So so that you cannot be taken like we don't respect you, we don't inform you on time. So we are just informing you on time that the best way of dealing with the deliberations of the report is for us being physically in a meeting. Angazi ukuthi Nelisa. Yeah, akami kancane sisicedelela into zethu. So any comment? No comment. Thank you very much, honorable members. Over to you, Chair. If you want to make your opening remarks, Chair.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members and all support staff. I want to echo what the Chair said. Thank you very much for the hard work yesterday, and also that we were able to do a lot yesterday. I think, Chairperson, I just want to wish the members well in today's interviews. And I think we did a very good job. And I just want to echo Chairperson that we must Please keep within our time. We managed it very, very well yesterday. And as agreed, 4 members per candidate. If we can concur on that one. If there's follow-up questions, we will allow the follow-up questions, but if we can keep within the agreement that there is 4 questions per 4 members to ask questions per candidate, and then also to the candidates who will be before the panel today. I want to wish everybody well and welcome also to all our viewers, our followers on social media. I went in on social media late last night, Chairperson, just to follow some comments, and it seems very positive. And I am glad that people are really following the process to adhere to what our call is, that this is an open and a fair process, and it is open for everybody in South Africa. Thank you, Chairperson. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I can see when, honorable members, when you said each member must ask, we are going to take 4 members to ask questions. Yesterday we said 6.
Sorry, Chairperson. It's still early in the morning.
I can see them now. When you said 4, they are looking at me. No. So it's 6. So thank you very much, Chair. We'll now allow our first candidate to come in. But Siyabonga, they were saying Moses Siyabonga is still at the visitor center. Is he here? Zuki, our first candidate is Siyabonga. So I was told that he's still in the visitor center. Yeah? He's here now. Okay, he can come in. Chairperson, Mr. Siyabonga Magadla is here. Over to you, Chair.
Good morning. Siyabonga. If you're a bit stressed, just take a sip of water. Can you hear me, Chair?
How, I was just asking myself, what's wrong? You just start and then it goes, good morning.
So is it better now?
Maybe Siabonga has brought something that is and you know ungodly here. Why? Why?
Good morning, Chairperson. Is it better now?
Yes, it's better, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Siabonga.
Siabonga kaloku le nto iphethe.
Good morning, Siabonga. Welcome to this interview. I want you to relax, take a deep breath. When you're a bit stressed, just drink some water. I want to give you the assurance that this interview will be fair. And before we start, I want to introduce myself. My name is Marentia Gillian. I'm the chairperson of the Select Committee on Health and Social Services in the National Council of Provinces. And I'm also the co-chair of the, in this process in appointing the NYDA board. I am going to hand over to the chairperson in the committee room to introduce herself and all the members who is with her in the room. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. Siabonga. My name is Nonhlanhla Ncubendaba. I'm the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. I'm co-chairing this panel with the chairperson, Honorable Gillian. I will hand over to honorable members. You're welcome and good luck. I'll hand over to honorable members to introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, honorable co-chairs, and good morning to yourselves. Good morning to honorable members. Good morning, Mr. Makatla, and welcome once again. My name is Fikile Masiko. I'm a member of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairpersons. Good morning, Mr. Siabonga. My name is Audrey Malika. I'm a member of the subcommittee.
Thank you to the chairpersons. My name is Leo Lompiti, and a very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, chairpersons. Good morning, sir. My name is Mbulelo Paha, and I'm a member of the subcommittee. Thank you so much.
Siabonga, we are too serious.
Oh, good morning, chairpersons, and good morning, Mr. Makatla. My name is Telisom Kweba, and the member of this committee, and you are welcome.
Rishile Tatana Siabonga. Vito ni Brenda Matibul, ni member of this subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, Mr. Makatla. My name is Witumelo Joyce Maluleke, a member of this committee. You're welcome.
Honorable Ndongeni.
Thanks, Chair. Molweni Siabonga.
Good morning,
Igama lami
Siabonga.
nguDr. Kandungeni, member yale committee. Enkosi.
I'm the member of this subcommittee. I thank you.
Honorable Natasha.
Morning, Chair, and morning, members. Sorry for my video, Chair. I'm having network issues. Good morning, Mr. Makaka. All the best with the interview. My name is Natasha Nkangweni, representing the EFF. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair.
You need to assure Mr. Makatla because I can see Chair, he's not relaxed.
But I can't see, the camera is not on him. I really want to see the candidate.
Can you see him now?
No.
Okay.
There we go. Good morning, Siyabonga. I hope you are relaxed. I want to ask you to enjoy this interview with us. My first question to you will be, if you can briefly tell the panel members who you are, a brief background of your personal details, academic qualifications, your background and your involvement with youth development or youth empowerment, and then also to give us your knowledge of the agency. And also, can you share with the panel why you are interested in committing your time and your energy to serve on the NYDA board and to serve the young people of our country? You've got 5 minutes to answer the first question. All other questions, you will have a time of 4 minutes. And if there's any follow-up questions, you will have 2 minutes to answer that. Just sit back and relax and talk to us. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, co-chairs, and good morning to honorable members. Chair, I'm trying to relax, but the environment is very intimidating, but I will try my level best. Now, as a form of introduction, Chair, I'm Siyabonga Magadla, born, raised, and schooled in the Eastern Cape, born in Butterworth to be specific, studied in various towns of the Eastern Cape, and obtained my national diploma in media studies and journalism from the Nelson Mandela Metro University, and went on to do my internship in Queenstown for one of the community newspapers for a period of 6 months, following which I then, due to interprovincial migration, moved to Gauteng, where I was employed once again as an intern for the National Youth Commission at the time, which was in 2007. I then worked my way through the ranks of the National Youth Commission, specifically within the communications environment, until the merger of the Youth Commission and Umsobomvu in 2009, which then I also transited into the new entity, which is the National Youth Development Agency. During the time at which I was at the National Youth Commission and the NYDA, I sought to empower myself further academically and went on to obtain a BTech from the Tshwane University of Technology, again in media studies and journalism. I also enrolled with the University of South Africa for a bachelor's degree in government administration and development because of my interest in issues of development as well as public administration. And part of the modules that I did as part of my bachelor's degree was financial management administration, financial administration as well as management, which seeks to empower participants with knowledge of the relationship between public finances as well as the achievement of management goals, which I think is important for the process that we're participating in today. Now, I subsequently left the National Youth Development Agency during the year 2015 to pursue interest in business, which is where I currently am as an entrepreneur in various sectors of the economy. I also have been involved in a number of social responsibility programs as an entrepreneur, wherein we've created a number of vehicles within our company where we assist young people to participate in business. And we have, since 2018, been convening summits that aim to look at the sustainability of youth-owned businesses, informed by the challenge that they tend to fail within 2 to 3 years of existence. So we've sought to bring together a number of industry players together with entrepreneurs to have a conversation about how we can ensure that youth-owned businesses become sustainable beyond the 2-year period. I have also, through the firm, established a publication called The Journey, which was informed by my interest in terms of information dissemination. Through The Journey, we sought to provide information to young learners in schools in terms of available opportunities, in terms of bursaries, loans, as well as opportunities in terms of skills development. We partnered in the publication with a number of sector education and training authorities, which is SETAs, in terms of them publishing available opportunities for young people within the publication, which we then distributed free of charge to young people in schools. We've also been involved with a campaign looking at sports against crime in the Queenstown area, where we organized the local municipality, organized local businesses, as well as the police within the Chris Hani District Municipality to put together a soccer tournament that would bring young people together so that we take them away from the streets and that they participate in activities that will keep them active, but also they learn life skills as well as build their characters. I think in the recent past, which is this past month, we convened a workshop as a firm that was looking at SMME compliance due to our passion for young people in participating in SMMEs. And this was informed by evidence that we've seen during the COVID period, where a number of SMMEs had to shut down because they could not qualify for relief support on the basis that they could not meet the requirements that were set by those that were providing the relief support, whether be it private sector or government.
Time is up.
Was that 5 minutes, Chair?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I will hand over to you to take the hands for the next questions of the members. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Masiko, Honorable PT, Honorable Bacha, Honorable Matebula, Honorable Natasha.
Yes, Chair, you can add me, please.
Okay.
Thank
Me
you very
too,
much.
Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chairs, and good morning once again, Mr. Makadla. Chair, I think I'm quite pleased that we are speaking to someone who has been with the agency since its inception. So, you know, is interested in knowing that in your own assessment and in terms of your contribution and your work with the agency, do you feel that the NYDA has been able to perform its mandate efficiently? If you feel so, you must explain how. If not, then you must also pick up on the shortcomings that you feel that you have identified through your time serving in the National Youth Development Agency. And I want to marry that question with a two-in-one. Let me say it's a two-in-one and say that currently, you know that at present, the Act is in the process of being amended. So there have been some proposed amendments, and can you pick on some of the most important that you feel would be able to better, to ensure that the NYDA is fully, functional and is able to perform its mandate better, improving from the shortcomings that probably you would note or have noted through your time serving in the NYDA. Thank you, Chair.
All right, no, thanks a lot for the question, honorable member. So I think it's important to first note how the mandate of the agency came about. So the debate was whether we go the route of an agency or a ministry. Then ultimately, the route of an agency is the one that the country opted for. And then the approach to youth development was then two-pronged. One, it was to mainstream and integrate youth development across all sectors of society. But the second one empowered the National Youth Development Agency to design, initiate, coordinate, as well as monitor specific intervention programs that sought to empower young people, but also to bring them into the mainstream economy. Now, part of the mandate was dependent on the integration and the participation of different stakeholders, in this sense, government, as well as the private sector. The second one was specific that the NYDA had the powers to initiate and design programs. Now, the NYDA has to some extent managed to execute part of its mandate because it has been able to, for instance, there's a time where it changed its mandate where there was a system of loan provision. And then it moved that to a grant provision system to assist SMMEs, especially young people, with getting their footing in the economy and the business sector without the burden of having to repay loans that create a burden on them even before they become sustainable entrepreneurs. So in that sense, I think the NYDA has been able to come up with an intervention to assist young people. Obviously, it has not been enough. In terms of youth advisory services as well as information provision, the NYDA continues to increase its presence through local youth offices, through provision of mobile units that go to rural communities, as well as a call center where young people can reach it in order for them to get information. I know that it has been rolling out career guidance sessions. It has been involved in the process of rolling out health and well-being programs for young people to benefit. However, all of this has not been enough, Chair, I must be honest, because of the demand that is there in terms of the challenges that face young people vis-a-vis the resources that the National Youth Development Agency has been given by government. Now, in terms of the second part of the mandate, which is mainstream and integration of youth development in various sectors of the economy, there has been a sluggish uptake in terms of government in integrating a number of youth development priorities within its functions, which is what then informs some of the amendments in the NYDA Act that are proposed, as you referred to. One of which is the establishment of the provincial youth offices of the National Youth Development Agency to make sure that there's that coordination at a national level, there's a coordination at a provincial level between the premier's offices as well as the provincial youth offices of the National Youth Development Agency, cascading down to local youth offices, which I think is a very important function because the success of the National Youth Policy hinges on the effectiveness of all these structures, nationally, provincially, as well as locally.
I wanted to make a follow up to Mr. Makadla regarding funding, whether the funds that are allocated to NYDA are adequate or what?
Chair,
according to your own opinion.
Chair, in my view, the resources are not adequate, and I will expand on that if you would allow. I indicated earlier that the National Youth Development Agency was a merger of two entities, Umsobomvu and the National Youth Commission. That was in 2009. Now, in 2001, when Umsobomvu was established, it had access to a budget of R1 billion. The challenges that young people face today are more enormous than the challenges that young people faced in 2001, and they continue to increase. However, the budget of the National Youth Development Agency is almost half of what Umsobomvu Youth Fund and the Youth Commission had access to. And the mandate of the NYDA is almost 4 or 5 times the mandate of those two entities combined at the time. So no, Chair, it's not sufficient. However, the Act also empowers the NYDA to go out to the private sector and fundraise, but also to seek partnerships. And I think it's part of the limitations or the shortcomings that the agency has not exploited, because that instrument is there in the Act for it to not only rely on government funding, but to also seek partnerships and investment from other donors and private sector companies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makatla. It's Honorable Mpiti. Who's next? Is Honorable Pachane? Yeah, Honorable Pach. I
No.
think the one of funding, obviously, it's taken. So members can also look at other questions.
No, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think that it's good that we're talking to someone who's been within the system already, who might have seen what the shortcomings were, went out and then wants to come back. And I think for me, what is important is, what is it that you think must be done differently to how things were when you were there? Taking into account the fact that the youth is confronted with high unemployment percentages, but also the fact that there's coronavirus. I think you made mention of some of the projects that you are embarking on as we speak, but I just want to get a sense of what is it? What are 3 key things, for an example, that you think you would push for if you were to be afforded an opportunity to go back into the NYDA? What is it that you can bring which will kind of assist us in ensuring that young people get opportunities, the percentage is cut in terms of unemployment, and new things that are not done, that you can see being done at present? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Chair. No, thanks, Honorable Member. So 3 things. I'll start with education. I think that's the foundation for everything if we need to address the challenges that we're faced with as young people. Because if you look at the high levels of unemployment, the majority of those who are unemployed, there's a correlation between unemployment or employability and the level of education that one has acquired. If you look at the recent statistics, 7.7 million people unemployed. About 54% of those don't have matric. So that's the basis where we need to begin, by ensuring that the education of the country, through lobby and advocacy of basic as well as higher education, ensures that it empowers young people with skills and knowledge for the current needs as well as the future needs of the country, but also it's able to respond to the changes in the market, particularly as brought by the 4th Industrial Revolution. And these skills should include workforce readiness. They should include soft as well as technical skills, but also entrepreneurial skills. This is the part where education becomes important. The other one linked to that is the issue of skills development. We need to improve, Chair, our interventions for young people who drop out of school and fall within the cracks, because they constitute a big number of those who are currently unemployed. And by so doing, we must equip them with technical, soft skills, skills that they can use on a daily basis, whether it's acquired through community centers or FET colleges. The second one, Chair, is the issue of the informal economy as well as entrepreneurship. You would know that the informal economy is one of the sectors that have suffered severely during COVID lockdown. Firstly, when there was a strict level 5 lockdown, the informal economy was completely shut down, whereas other sectors of the economy were allowed to trade, which has significantly contributed to the loss of jobs in that sector. We need to protect the informal economy in a sense that there must be hubs in townships where informal traders are housed so that there's a level of uniformity. Secondly, they must be assisted to comply so that if there's a disaster or a pandemic, they're able to be eligible for private sector as well as government relief support. The third one is that Malls have entered into the townships, further making the vulnerability of the informal sector. And therefore, we need to protect them as much as we can because they bring them a lot of jobs into the economy. The third issue on the economy is the issue of set-asides. We need to enforce the 30% set-asides using the instrument of government procurement to make sure that youth-owned entities are able to be accommodated in terms of the 30% of the youth set-asides. The last issue, Chair, on the economy, which is reflected on the National Youth Policy, is the issue of strategic localization and the promotion of exports. The country does not export a lot of products. Instead, it imports a lot of products. And that is where the issue of job creation is also a challenge because if you don't produce, there's no way you are going to create jobs for the economy. And therefore, we need to make sure that we localize some of the things that we import unnecessarily from other countries. The pandemic has also shown us that our manufacturing is quite strong. We were able to manufacture PPEs to the tune of 12 billion rands. Gloves, sanitizers, ventilators, and other things. 2 billion of those have been exported to the African market. Imagine if we were to do all of those outside of the pandemic, we would be able to create the much needed jobs and be able to make sure that young people are accommodated in the economy. And these are the things that the Act empowers the National Youth Development Agency to do through lobby and advocacy, through ensuring that government mainstreams youth development within the sectors of society, but also through the three spheres of government. Maybe the last one, Chair, if time permits. The issue of SOEs. We need to repurpose our state-owned enterprises to make sure that they also participate in manufacturing, but they absorb young people. You've got Denel, which has been participating in the manufacturing of artillery, armored vehicles, fighting jets. Why can't you repurpose that state-owned entity to make sure that it manufactures, for instance, cars that can be sold in the domestic market or even used by government within the domestic market? You've got another SOE in the form of broadband infraco, which was supposed to make sure that there's availability of broadband in the country. Why can't you repurpose that SOE and do a private partnership where you can manufacture low-cost laptops? Because there's a high demand now of laptops for young people due to the online as well as a virtual learning. Thank you very much.
Sesimshayile Mr. Magadla isikhathi. Honorable Mpiti.
Thank you, Chair. I hope I'm audible. Mr. Siabonga, thank you so much for your responses thus far. I think it is very important for us to look at the time that you were at the NYDA, and I just want to maybe take you through my thoughts at the time as a young person who was in university looking at the NYDA at this particular point. The period of 2009 to 2015 was the highest time in which the NYDA was spending majority of its budget on salaries. In fact, at that time, salaries of managers and senior managers of the NYDA accounted for over 40% of the budget that the NYDA was allocated. 9 senior managers, 68 managers, a huge component of staff members. And I think you were a spokesperson at the time. I'm interested to know, did you have any conversations with the CEO, Katu Ramakumba, at the time about the high level of salaries that was being paid to managers at the NYDA at the detriment of young people? Because this is a constant fight that we are having in Parliament to reduce the salary bill of officials so that the work and the money goes to service delivery. And so I'm interested, were you concerned about this particular issue? Did you raise it at the time that you were part of the NYDA? And what is your view going forward should you be appointed to the board in terms of salaries that go to officials of the NYDA and whether or not those should be prioritized over the services to young people? Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Member. I think just to give a bit of context once again, the issue of the high salary bill of the NYDA has always been a concern. And I think it was a concern even for the managers, the CEO, as well as the board. But the biggest contributor to that is the fact that you had merged two entities that each had their own staff complements. And therefore, at the process of the merger, you could not easily dispense or dispose of that human resource without following proper labor processes. That was the issue at the time. And I think over time, the National Youth Development Agency board, together with its executive management, was able to say that we are going to go through a process of restructuring, which included the process of severance packages. And a number of senior managers and other officials at the time were able to be part of that process. A lot of them left during that period, taking the packages in recognition of the fact that we needed to address the issue of this high salary bill, which was informed by the fact that you brought two entities together and you needed to follow due process in order for you to align the organization to its strategic purposes. And going forward, honorable member, I think it goes without saying that the role of government also, including the National Youth Development Agency, should not be the one of having bloated structures, but it should be the one that creates a conducive environment for other sectors to create work and jobs in the economy, not entirely for government to be the one that carries the burden of creating employment. And therefore, the bulk of the money that is allocated to the NYDA should be able to go to programs as well as servicing the interest and aspirations of young people. Also to create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive, because that's where you are likely to get the bulk of the employment that is much needed. I mean, the NDP, for instance, envisages a situation where by 2030, 90% of the jobs will be coming from small businesses. And therefore, the role of government should be to make sure that that environment is created and is conducive, but to reduce the bloated structure that we currently experience in a number of government entities, including the NYDA. But I think it's work in progress.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makadla. Honorable Matebula.
Akensa Chairperson, Tatana Siyabonga, if you are elected as a board member, what can you do to address the issue of gender equality in the agency? Especially currently, there are 59 managers who are males and then 15 managers who are female. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think the issue of gender equality is very important. It's also captured in the current National Youth Policy 2030, in that it speaks to redress. And one of the things that it speaks to is the fact that we need to deliberately enforce, even if it's through quotas, the fact that young women in particular should be able to be empowered to be equal partners to males. And therefore, even in instances of the work environment, it must be policy. I think even in government, even in parliament, for instance, government speaks about 50-50 representation in terms of representation of women in government, firstly, but also in parliament. I think parliament, I think credit where it's due, it's been able to live up to that reality of 50-50. And I think therefore, even within the context of the National Youth Development Agency, as and when the review of performance of managers comes into effect, it must take into cognizance the fact that there must be gender parity in terms of ensuring the representation of women. Because what this does, Chair, it also builds confidence on young people who are in school to have the confidence that as young women, we've got an equal opportunity in society as well as in the workplace. This is one of the things that will assist us to deal with other social ills in society, including gender-based violence. Because one of the drivers of continuous gender-based violence is the fact that young women feel inferior to men because they don't have equal opportunities, they don't have the economic muscle, and therefore they become subservient to partners that end up treating them in a manner that they should not, because we have not addressed the issue of empowering young women to feel as equal partners to men. Beyond then implementing these quotas of 50-50 within the management or structures of government and the agency, it needs to filter down to society where we empower women to consider themselves and see themselves as equal partners who are able to contribute in their families, but also to the broader society. And economic empowerment is the one way in which we'll be able to achieve that.
Yeah. To practice what to preach. Honorable Natasha, not Natasha, Honorable Ndongeni.
No, you have noted me, Chair, earlier on.
Okay. Natasha.
Thanks very much, Chair. Chair, Mr. Siabonga, I just want to find out from you. I see you are having a directorship in 6 companies. Now, will this having to be on the board, will that not be hindering your duties for serving on this board? And then secondly, the NYDA currently out there is having a very negative perspective, perception amongst youth and so forth, the media as well. As a media person that have studied media, what will you do to sort of change this negative narrative against the NYDA so that it can effectively do its job and serve young people, and to address also what you have spoken earlier on, and it seems you are very passionate about industrialization and localization. What will you do, sir? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Honorable Member. I'll start with the second question. Now, at a board level, the board has got a strategic function in terms of providing for the vision, the mission, as well as the goals of the organization. And now, part of doing this is through creating a number of committees. And at present, the Act of the NYDA speaks to 5 committees: Executive Management Committee, Credit Risk, Audit, Development Committee, as well as Audit. Now, the issue of the perceptions around the National Youth Development Agency have continued to dodge the NYDA. And I think perhaps one of the issues that the board at that level needs to do is to consider introducing another committee which deals with issues of the ethics, social and ethics committee. And the function of the social and ethics committee is to oversee and report on the organizational ethics, one, but secondly, a responsible corporate citizen, and thirdly, stakeholder management. And I think this committee will be important in terms of ensuring that it drives the ethical conduct of the organization, but also reports to the board in terms of the progress in doing that. The second issue will be the promotion of good corporate governance, which is about really exercising ethical as well as effective leadership. And this is done to achieve 4 objectives, which is control, effective controls, good performance, legitimacy, as well as an ethical culture. If we're able to do this as the board, we'll be able to change the perception that continues to haunt the National Youth Development Agency. But generally, members of the board should be able to act in a non-partisan manner, but also as professionals. And that will then be able to some extent change the mindset and the perception, both in terms of the media as well as the public. The first question, Chair, in terms of my directorship in 6 companies, you see, sometimes we get too passionate about the business to an extent that we then get involved in different entities for the mere purpose of ensuring that we participate in the economy, but also we use some of these companies as special purpose vehicles to achieve some of the objectives that we want to achieve, including ensuring that we get other young people involved and able to participate in the mainstream economy. Because you would find young people wanting to go into business, but they are not able or don't have the confidence to go into business. And they always approach us because we are seen as advocates for youth participation in the economy, as well as SMME development. And they would always want to partner with us in some of the ventures that they go into. And we are always willing and able to do that. But in as far as being part of the board of the National Youth Development Agency is concerned, it will not have any bearing, Chair, because some of the responsibilities that one undertakes in some of those companies will have to be relinquished for the duration of the period of the board of the National Youth Development Agency.
Yo, siyabonga, wena uzokhona ukurelinquisha those positions.
Yes, Chair, by all means.
Will you be able to handle all this position?
I think we need to be realistic because tomorrow we'll call you as the portfolio committee if you didn't relinquish and make you account.
No, remember, like
You
I
know,
said,
because NYDA is reporting to us.
yes, I'm aware. So some of these entities, Chair, serve the purpose that the NYDA to some extent ought to serve, but at a smaller scale. Now, if one is given a platform to operate at a larger scale, there will be no need to do these piecemeal interventions when you've got access to an institution that can give you the leverage to deliver programs at large scale with greater impact.
Honorable Ndongeni?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Sabonga.
Morning.
Okay, my question is, the National Development Plan highlighted a need to address political administrative interference, which sometimes cause instability in the public service. Ne? In your own way, in your own opinion, what causes political interference in the administration? How can these causes to eliminate? Can you provide political examples? If you can. Thanks, Chair.
Maybe, in fact, I want to add something. Can you define what is political interference? Just to add on her question.
All right, no, thanks, Chair. I think examples will get me into trouble. I've got a few, but they will really get me into trouble. Now, I think, Chair, political interference, for instance, if you look at the structure of government, it's got different arms. It's got the executive, it's got cabinet, it's got parliament, and all these different arms have got different functions. Cabinet is, for instance, responsible for policy development. And if you look at the the legislature is responsible for policy development. And you've got the judiciary, which is responsible for issues of ensuring that there's lawlessness, public servants are held accountable in terms of judicial related issues. Then you've got cabinet, which is responsible for the implementation of policy. Now within a cabinet, you've got cabinet ministers. And the next line of function is that of director generals. And now the specific functions that ministers ought to perform vis-a-vis the functions that director generals are given a responsibility to perform. Now, ministers are supposed to provide political oversight, whereas DGs are supposed to be responsible with issues of executing administrative functions. Now, political interference is where the political principal in the form of a cabinet minister would want to be involved in issues of decision-making in administrative issues, whether be it allocation of tenders or whether be it employment of general labor within the department. And that constitutes political interference. I think there's a number of examples that we've seen in the past. For instance, there was an issue of a building relating to the Ministry of Police in Mid-Stad at the time. Currently, we are facing a challenge in the Department of Health where similar accusations have been leveled against the principal, which are issues that are subject to investigations, which is why I was avoiding making examples. But then that's where political interference begins, Chair. And what is important then is that you are able to separate the functions of the political oversight from the functions of the administration. And this is also important for boards as well, especially within the context of the board of the National Youth Development Agency, because the chair and the deputy chair are executive, which means that they are full-time in the office. How do you make sure that their roles do not interfere with the roles of the CEO, who's also supposed to be having those powers of being an executive within the organization? So the separation of those powers is very important.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, yes, Chair, we are done with Mr. Makadla.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, members. Sorry, thank you, Siyabonga. Thank you for honoring the invite to come for the interview before the panel. I just need to know, is there any question that you want to ask the panel?
In relations to the process.
No. I'm covered, Chair. I don't have any question. I just wish to thank the panel for having granted me the opportunity to come and make a presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Siyabonga. Let me take the opportunity then to wish you well in your future endeavors. I'm also inviting you to watch on social media or on our live channel 408, when we are going to finalize and deliberate the process and also adopt the report. But our administrative support staff will also get in touch with all candidates who was invited for interviews. Wish you luck and thank you very much. You are excused.
Afuna ukubheka ama-members. Eish. In fact, I'm happy with the manner in which
Chairperson, can we just ask member Natasha to switch off all her gadgets that she's got around her? That's why there's an echo when she speaks.
Oh, okay.
Chair, it's a bit difficult for me because I'm driving and then I have to stop like that. So it's a bit difficult.
Yes, but you must switch off your radio or your TV or any
maybe the
thing.
radio. Maybe the radio, Honorable Natasha. Yeah, Honorable Mkweba.
Thank you very much, Chairpersons. No, I think I'm concerned, Chair, because I saw an interpreter of sign languages, but I thought that all our session from day one to the last day, which is the 5th day, that there will be a person that will interpret for the people of South Africa, especially those that belongs to the persons with disabilities, especially those that can't speak and can't hear, so that at least they must be able to follow this Lantika session of interviews. So then I'm worried that I saw the guy was sitting there, but immediately when we started with the process, the guy is sitting at the corner. And I don't think that it's important, it's good that there's an interpreter when there's one person who then can't speak like ourselves. But what about the other young people across the country following the same process? And I know they've got an interest as well, because at the end of the day, this committee or this NYDA will also cater their interest. So I think I must bring to your attention, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkweba. I think Nelson, I was thinking that you were sorting it. Because you're correct. There's one sign language interpreter which is here, who's here in the house. But the problem is he's alone, and they exchange most of the time. So what he was saying to us is that maybe he can start interpreting when the candidate is here, because he's gonna get tired, and when he's supposed now to interpret for the other one, it's gonna have a problem. So it's a reasonable concern, but I thought that Nomvula and Neliswa, they are sorting it out, Nabo Zuki, so that Parliament can bring somebody else, the second person, because everybody knows in Parliament, even ourselves, we know when we watch them on TV, they exchange them. It's not one person who will interpret a sign language for the whole day. So we were just keeping him that when the candidate comes in, at least he must be fresh, because we can't disappoint the candidate. And then the other one is the one who are interpreting vernacular languages. I don't hear them today. Or maybe it's himing one thing else. I didn't hear anybody interpreting vernacular. He was saying what? Because I was listening, I was trying to check whether when Honorable Matebula was speaking, I was expecting that person to be interpreting. I didn't hear.
Chair,
Yes, Madam.
we must always practice what we preach, because the issue of sign language, I've raised it yesterday, and the team knew very well that it can't be only one person who must come and interpret today. I think it can be an excuse for us to say there is one member, because we have raised this issue yesterday. So it must be sorted out, Chair.
We are agreeing, honorable members. Remember, our staff, they have sent requests to Parliament. So other things, it's beyond their control. If they have submitted a request to Parliament and Parliament has done something that is not within their competence, there's nothing they can do except to say, when we raise it again, they will go and tell them. So we've been waiting for their response until now. That's why I was checking with Nelly Swati. What are they saying now? Because we need to have a sign language interpreter. We can't have one person for the whole day. We must be realistic. We can't. There's no way that will allow one sign language interpreter from morning up until 8. Ayizukwenza into enjalo, because they know a good house training it is. We need a Parliament to give us the person who's responsible for that, so that if it means we must call that person, we will call that person. We'll adjourn for a few minutes and then call that person, so that these things must be done correctly, because we are a portfolio committee and a select committee that deals with people with disabilities also. So they must be catered for. It cannot be correct that we, as the portfolio committee and the select committee, during our own processes, we don't even accommodate persons living with disabilities. So Parliament need to respect that. And they must also account on why were we not having sign language interpreters in the morning until late? And why are we not having interpreters of vernacular languages from morning up until the end? Because they know our program. We didn't plan yesterday that we are going to conduct these interviews. It's been a month that Parliament was informed that we are going to have these interviews, and our program was approved, and all our needs must be met by Parliament. That's why even the research unit has accommodated us by ensuring that every day we do have a researcher, and other researchers are watching visually. So we are covered with the research unit, and our content advisors are here. And our legal advisors are here. It's only that today I forgot to check whether Mr. Njikela is here or not. Nikeza inamba yalo muntu simfonele. Angasitshela ukuthi it's their responsibility to source sign language people. Ukuthi seek is not our business. One of them must get another person. Honorable Masiko and Honorable Maluleke.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think that we cannot really, as a committee, overemphasize the need for a sign language interpreter. But Chair, I request that whilst the team is working on it, and Chair, I don't think that we should really be apologetic. Parliament must provide us with the second sign language interpreter. I would request, Chairperson, that we proceed, because we are also looking at issues of time, and we request the gentleman there to assist us, and then when the second interpreter arrives, he will then take a seat and obviously have a break, because we have a full day today. So I think for now he could continue with the services that he had already started, and then they will alternate once the second member arrives. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, can I support that notion so that we proceed?
No, Chairperson, thank you very much. This is what I was going to say, and I second what Honorable Masiko is saying now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. You can come and assist us. Batshela ukuthi ngithi basosa omunye umuntu bangasitsheli ukuthi omunye umuntu uyagula. We must get somebody else. Thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you very much, Chair. We can call the next. Have you sanitized? Okay. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Mr. Ndlela is here.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. Ndlela. Let me first of all welcome you in this interview. I want you to relax. Take a deep breath. You can remove your mask as long as you have your social distance and your sanitizers in order. Please relax. Take a deep breath. If you are a bit stressed, take a sip of water. We want you to enjoy this interview. Let me introduce myself. My name is Marenche Gillian. I'm the chairperson of the Select Committee in the NCOP of Health and Social Services, and also the co-chairperson of this committee who's dealing with the appointment of the NYDA board. And I will hand over to the chairperson in the committee room to introduce herself and also the other members who's part of our panel. Thank you, Chair. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. Ndlela. My name is Nonhlanhla Ncubendaba. I'm the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. You are welcome, sir, and good luck. Over to you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. Ndlela, and welcome to your interview. My name is Fikile Masiko. I'm a member of the subcommittee. Thanks.
Thank you, chairpersons. Good morning, Mr. Ndlela. My name is Audrey Malika. I'm a member of the subcommittee. You are welcome.
Thank you to the chairpersons. A very good morning to you, Mr. Ndlela. My name is Louis Olompiti, and I'm wishing you well.
Thank you, chairpersons. My name is Mbulelo Pacha, a member of this committee. I hope we do well in this engagement. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair. And good morning, Mr. Ndlela. My name is Telisom Kweba, the member of this committee, and all the best.
Rishile Tatana Ndlela. My name is Brenda Matebula. I'm the member of this subcommittee. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Ndlela. I'm Joyce Buitumelo Maluleke, a member of this committee. You are welcome.
Honorable Natasha. Honorable Ndongeni.
Enkosi bosihlalo ndiyabulela. Ndiyabulisa kuwe mnumzana uNdlela. Igama lam ndinguNokuzola kaNdongeni. Ndingomnye wale komiti. Ndiseva kule komiti. Enkosi sihlalo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndongeni. Honorable Natasha.
She's indicating that she's got a problem with network wherever she is. So you can.
Oh, okay, no, it's fine. Over to you, Chair. We are done with the introduction.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Ndlela, can you perhaps, in very briefly, tell the panel members who you are, give us a little bit of background on your personal life, your academic qualifications, your background in youth empowerment or youth development, and then also knowledge of, share your knowledge that you know about the agency, as well as, very important, why you are interested in committing your time and energy to serve on the NYDA board. Please relax.
Yeah, when they
You
say
can continue.
when the chair is saying your personal life, not your girlfriend's.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to the chairs and members of the committee, and to the viewers watching at home. My name is Thulis Ndlela. I am from the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Chair, I'm an entrepreneur. I think to explain myself in just one word, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company that operates in the port of Durban and the port of Richards Bay. We conduct an activity called commercial diving. Obviously, there are many other issues that we deal with, but that is what I've been doing since 2016. In terms of academic qualifications, Chair, I have a junior degree in legal studies and political sciences, an honors degree in international relations, and a postgraduate in finance, investment banking, and management. I also worked in as Envelo KZN and Wildlife as a member of the board for the past 4 years. My term of office is coming to an end in July. In that board, I chaired the Finance and Governance Committee. When we got into the institution had gotten a qualified audit opinion, and we put in systems in place, and we were able to get 3 consecutive unqualified audit opinions from the Auditor General. In the other work that I do, I serve on the eThekwini Economic Council, an advisory council to the city leadership, in particular the mayor. I serve on the investment work stream. There are a number of work streams, but I mainly concentrate on the work stream of investments. And as a service to my community of Umlazi, I am also a member of the board of the hospital, Prince Mshieni. The last time I was here, Chair, that got me into trouble. I hope this time it doesn't. I am on the board of Prince Mshieni, and that particular service is done. It's more of an advocacy role that we do. It's a bridging between an institution between the hospital and the community. When they have awareness campaigns, we help them get the message to the community, and obviously take feedback from the community to the hospital. So it doesn't quite work like an accounting authority. It just works as an advocacy kind of a structure. It is still within the community, and we have engagements with the Department of Health as and when we can on a number of issues. So as to why I think I should be one of the candidates recommended, I think, Chair, from the practical side of the experience that one has gained in the boards that I've served in, I do believe that there is quite a lot that I can offer in how the accounting authority works, particularly in the practical side. You know, having been in an institution that was in trouble, I came in and we were able to, with the collective, of course, of the committee that I chaired, we put in systems in place, and we were able to see results on a year-to-year basis, and you compare yourself from where you are this one year and where you are the following year. So I do think with the experience that I have gained, I would be in a position to be part of the collective and help streamline the work of the NYDA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndlela. Honorable members, can I take your hands? Honorable Mkweba, Honorable Maluleke, Honorable Mpiti, Honorable Malika. Honorable Ndongeni? You're the last one?
Yes,
Honorable,
Chair.
Matebula will be the last one.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Ndlela. The NYDA defines youth as persons between the age of 14 and 35. Then, in your own opinion, is the NYDA sufficiently addressing challenges that face the youth aged between 14 and 35? If the answer is yes or no, please expand to your answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and just okay. Okay, thank you, Chair. Honorable Member, thank you very much for the question. I do think the NYDA legislatively is structured to achieve what it is designed to. So if the question is it from a legislative point of view positioned well enough, I do think there is room for improvement, but it's okay. Practically speaking, there are a lot of challenges with NYDA, and in terms of how it aligns its work in terms of the Act of 2018. I'm aware that there's an amendment, but we'll just restrict ourselves to the Act as it is today. The work that it is supposed to be doing, it's not going as far as it should be going. In terms of course, when you engage with them, they'll raise the issue of resources and say they are
Maybe
resource
you must
constrained.
also make it easy for us to understand your explanation. If you are saying there are challenges, just give us an example.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you, Chair. I think more than anything, it's the reach of the NYDA. It's not present at all localities, in particular in the rural areas and in the townships. Look, I'm from KwaZulu-Natal. If you want to get an NYDA office, where I'm from Durban, you have to go to the city. In townships, there isn't a reach of the NYDA. In the rural areas, there isn't a reach of on the NYDA. And I think to address that particular challenge, you will need to partner with local municipalities, because it doesn't matter where how rural the place is, there is always a local municipality present in one way or another. You've got to partner with those kind of structures in order to be able to get the NYDA to the people, because more than anything, it's the accessibility first. Before we can speak whether it's strategic or not, it first has to be accessible. People have to be able to access it. Young people have to feel that if I'm going to the NYDA, I don't need to take 2 or 3 kind of what you call taxis in order to get there. And then from a policy point of view, from a policy advocacy point of view, is the NYDA doing enough? I'd say no. There is still a lot of room for improvement even there as well. Let me just make an example. I remember the job seeking. Let's just take job seeking. The idea of looking for a job in South Africa today is a very expensive exercise. And I'll tell you how. You have to make copies of your CV, get them certified, and the area that you make copies and the area you have them certified are not at the same locality. You have to travel. And only for a job that you may be shortlisted for or not. Now, if at a policy level, the NYDA can engage the Department of Public Service Administration, just in government now, to say, when applying in the immediate, you just supply your CV, make claims of what qualifications you have, and then only those shortlisted are asked to provide their certificates, matric, or whatever your degree, if you've got a degree. That way, you are making it easy for a young person to apply to 16 positions in a year and get shortlisted for 3. They only do copies insofar as the 3, thus reducing the amount of money it costs to look for a job in this country. Now, these are practical things at a policy level that only the NYDA, through its legislative mandate, can engage the department and say, look, you've got to look at this. Ultimately, of course, the long-term goal is to have an e-careers of some sort, where people have an online platform. You upload your CVs, you upload everything, and you apply via your online. But until we get there, with the network challenges we have and the accessibility of data challenges we have, let us make it easy as it is today, so that you don't have a young person, ohlala V, Mlazi, for instance, having to wake up, make copies here, walk almost a kilometer to GG, the nearest police station, to have their things certified, and then come back only to be able to find a way of posting them or whatever the case may be. And I'm just making an example about my locality, but there are other areas where the police station is a bit further than a kilometer. So I'm looking at such things. So it is really at a practical level of accessibility, and also at a level of policy where I do think there could be changes, and we could try and find a way to enhance the work of the NYDA.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Ndlela,
Yeah.
you know, out there's this negative narrative about the NYDA. And I would like you just to tell us what can be done to change the negative perception amongst young people about the NYDA? And secondly, how are you going to ensure that NYDA, under your leadership, if you are appointed as a board member, it abides with the guidance and principles of the youth development without any prejudice? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think to address the first part of your question, the negative narrative about the NYDA is dominant because the work of the NYDA has not reached the majority of young people. Because if you interact with young people who have had one engagement with the NYDA, they've been assisted, they've got good things to say about the NYDA. But the reason why we're hearing a little bit more of things about the negative narratives is because the NYDA hasn't worked to reach the majority of young people. So to address that, you just have to quicken the pace of your implementation. I don't think in terms of policies and strategies, there isn't any strategy that hasn't been written and adopted. I think from a policy point of view, we're okay. We're fine. We'll be able to go and deliver services, but more than anything, the pace. You have to kick in the pace, get to young people as quickly as we should be. The more you are seen responsive to the needs of young people, the more you are seen to help small to medium enterprises of the youth, the more you will have young people saying, oh wait, I did get assistance there. And there are ways of navigating even the resource constraints that we are currently facing. You know, there could be an engagement with the National Treasury. I did see it in the IDS, the draft IDS now, IYDS 2021-2023. I did see a proposal for an engagement with the National Treasury, not so much as to give a budget, but rather to give a guarantee, because I do think in the end, the work of the NYDA must go beyond giving grants. If you run a business that cannot pay back a loan, then you don't run a business. You know, so we've got to get to a point where we say, all right, you have a capital problem. You have an idea that is worth financing, but you have a capital problem. You have no collateral. So in the capital market, which collateral is the currency, you won't stand. But in a developmental setup with the NYDA, obviously pulling resources from different areas, you will be able to, if your idea is viable, we'll finance you, but won't give you a grant. We'll finance you. All you need to be able to do is within a given period of time, start paying back. Because if your business can't pay back capital it raises, then it's not a business. So, and then the second part of your question is, for me, I do think that fairness and transparency in the work that the NYDA does will go a long way in restoring the image of saying it's not an organization for a certain group of young people who belong to a particular political party or a certain class. They've got a better understanding or a better access of the NYDA. So if you could be transparent with what you do, you would be able to satisfy even those that haven't been reached, but they will see that the process is fair, and at some point it will get to me. And if I'm denied the assistance, it is because there are reasons of things. Maybe my business is not viable enough, or maybe there are areas I need to increase and be able to deal with before I can even get to the funding. So I do think that if we're able to do those two things, we will be in a position to sufficiently address the negative narrative around the NYDA and its work.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Ndlela, we know that in all public service, we have to be accountable for everything that we are doing, for decision that we are taking, and efficient use of resources. how would you ensure good governance in the National Youth Development Agency? If you can be recommended as one of the board members, how would you make sure that the Public Finance Management Act is being applied in the NYDA? And what role would the board of directors play in terms of the PFMA in the NYDA?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Chair, in my introduction, I seem to have forgotten that I'm also a certified director with the Institute of Directors of South Africa. I got the designation, I think, a couple of years ago. The understanding of good governance, and I'm reminded, Honorable Member, when you asked me about good governance, the understanding of good governance sources its basic framework from the King's Code on corporate governance. And the idea of any institution, be it government or private sector institution, is to create effective governance that will allow for an institution to have ethical leadership led by the board in determining the ethical culture of the institution in order for there to be good performance and legitimacy. And I think the last part of legitimacy is very important, in that if we are unable to put in these systems in place, we as an institution, the NYDA, in our practice, will lack the legitimacy required for young people to follow our lead. Because if you have no one following you and you claim to be leading, you are just but a man taking a walk and there's no one following you. So in order for us to be able to solidify and attain legitimacy, we've got to, in terms of good corporate governance, find ourselves putting systems in place. And I think the board starts by approving an ethical culture in the institution. The board will have to approve the strategy for implementation and set up systems in place of monitoring in between what is it that gets done. So, for instance, Chair, to get a clean audit is not an event. It's not something you get when you get audited at the end of the financial year. It's something you work on from quarter one. You have to set up systems in place and say 25% of this target must be achieved in the first quarter, because there are 4 quarters. And if you are not there in quarter one, then you must put in systems in place in order to change the issues. You have first to understand from management, what is the problem? Do you need anything as a decision from us as the accounting authority to enable you to do your work better? And says, okay, these are the problems. Okay, what are the controls from an SCM point of view or from a resource management point of view? If the audit committee sits and identifies issues, you have got to, in the first quarter, find out what the problems are. Is it an issue of control? Is it an issue of consequence management? Because it could only be these two. It's either your controls are lacking and things fall through the cracks, or when you found someone to have done something wrong and there have been investigations and everything, things are just swept under the carpet because we're all friends, we drink in the same cafeteria and all those things. So to create the ethical culture I spoke about, the board has got to be insistent on, this is what we don't tolerate. And then on quarter two, you do the same. So by the time you get to the 4th quarter, you already know as the board that, no, here we're okay. Here we are going to get a clean audit, because we've put in systems in place and we've monitored on a regular basis. And I like where the new act is taking the direction of the NYDA board, it being non-executive. I saw that come out prominently. I like, insofar as that is concerned, I like that, because I did feel that if you've got a board that has executives in them, you sort of have a referee and a player. And that's become very difficult, to be able to sit and be a chair who's executive, who also sits in the executive. And, it sort of encourages for unprofessional collusion, because once you start having 2 bulls in one kraal, it's either that kraal is going to collapse or one of the bulls will have to be tamed. Now, I do think structurally you'll have to be able to deal with that. So insofar as the issues of good governance in the NYDA, I think with the new act and where we're going, there is sufficient legislative maneuvering that can be done in order to get it right. I'm not saying, Chair, by that I mean all of the new act, the new bill I agree with. There are certain areas I certainly am not sure about, but insofar as that is concerned, I think we're sufficiently covered.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, what you just said regarding the executive powers, I'm sure it's something that we need to also engage on it. Honorable Mpiti?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Ndlela, for the response. I think you've touched on very important points, particularly on the role of a board in ensuring the right practices within an organization. And so I do think you have a wealth of knowledge in terms of having been on the board. And so that brings me to my question around your CV, where you have indicated, or you do serve on the, I think it's the Izimvelo Wildlife Board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. I'm aware that the board, that particular board, was suspended in 2020. Following a range of allegations related to procurement irregularities, lack of good governance, interference in management. So I'd like you to take us through your time on that board and just give us an understanding what exactly happened there, because as honorable members, we must put the best people onto the NYDA board. And if there are allegations, of course, they must be proven in order for them to be tested and to be proved. But in essence, you have served on that board, and I'd really like to understand, to have some idea on my side what actually happened, so that I can be well informed in making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I must say I was expecting this question. Look, honorable member, there are things I can speak to and there are things I can't. And the things I can't speak to, things that I don't know. So here's what I know. We were appointed on a board and we did our work until the shareholder wrote to me. I'm aware to other colleagues as well, but because I was appointed individually, the shareholder wrote to me asking me to explain why I should not be suspended because there are allegations of wrongdoing. That is the exact words that were used. So insofar as SAM regularities, I'm hearing it for the first time from you now, because what I did after that, I wrote back to the shareholder and said to them, before I can answer, why is it that you could not suspend me or not? Maybe furnish me with the specific allegation. Say, Mr. Ndlela, on this day you did 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I wrote and asked that. I never got that. I got a suspension letter. I took the suspension letter. I welcomed the suspension against the better advice of my legal counsel. I even issued a statement in my personal capacity because, look, for me, I had understood it to be, we are responsible for public funds. Anyone who's responsible for public funds, irrespective of your political affiliation or your power or whatever, whether you're a power block or you're heavyweight, all these things that get said these days. But if there is an allegation of wrongdoing when you are responsible for public funds, that has to be investigated. It doesn't matter who you are. So anyone who frowns upon scrutiny whilst in charge of public funds, then there's something wrong there. So I welcomed the investigation, waited for the investigation. This happened in July, I think, last year. I welcomed the investigation. I'm happy to share my personal statement with you, honorable member, that I released. The investigation has never come. Now, when you are being investigated, honorable member, you get called for an interview. You don't just get investigated, I've never been contacted by anyone. And in December last year, I asked my attorneys to write to the MEC and inquire as to what's going on. And that letter was not responded to. So insofar as this matter, I did welcome the suspension, but that is where it ended. So I'm unable to tell you exactly what happened because I don't know. But here's what I know. I was on a board for 3 years. well, for 4 years now, but for 3 financial years. The first financial year, when I got there, the institution, we got there in February, the institution got qualified. It had a qualified audit opinion, and we immediately were seized with the work of the management report. We read it, we got to understand what were the problems. We sat with management, we put systems in place, we redrafted the board charter in order for the proper delegation of authorities to know this is where management goes and ends. This is where the board starts in terms of approvals and ends. So we put in those systems in place. At the end of that financial year, we got an unqualified audit opinion. We then, we still had a high level of expenditure, of irregular expenditure. We still put in systems in place as well there to reduce it. We put in panels. For instance, where conservation authority, we manage assets. So some of the problems that you would have is there would be a best pipe and there wouldn't be time to call for 3 codes and everything. So they'll just call whoever they call and they do the service. But now that is irregular because in terms of the Public Management Act, you need to be able to, when you're managing finances, create a panel of service providers who will be able to then be on call as and when you require them. So we put in those systems in place. We reduce the irregular expenditure. At the end of the 3rd financial year, we had no irregular expenditure and we had a clean audit, what we call a clean audit, which is an unqualified audit with no areas of emphasis. So that is what I'm able to tell you. That is what I'm able to give you of what we have done. As to other things, I'm not sure. I really am not sure, and I don't want to sit here and speculate.
Thanks for clarifying the point, because I think it was an important point to clarify. So just for my own mind, are you still suspended? And secondly, what was your role on the board, if you can be able to share as well? Thank you.
Chair, yes to the first question. Yes, the board is still suspended. The term of office, like I indicated in my first term, in my introduction, ends in July, at the end of July. That will be our last day this year. No, this year. It ends at the end of July this year. So as of the 31st of July, that will be our last day. I am aware that the shareholder has already publicized calling for nominations and all these other things, even without finishing this process. That is a matter that obviously our legal team will have to deal with. But as it stands, that is the position. As to what I did on the board, I was a member of the audit committee, the audit and risk committee, and then I was the member of the finance and governance committee. The additional responsibility I got in the finance and governance was to chair the committee. So I sat, and then by then extension, it then made me sit in the board executive, which is an organization, a committee of all committee chairs, together with the deputy chair and the chair, which is a smaller group to deal with the more pressing issues. And that is probably before the times of Zoom and all these other things, because now convening a meeting isn't as difficult. So I don't know whether into the future such committees like the board exco will still be relevant. I don't know. But that's as so far as my role in the SMV. That's why I take pride, honorable member, in the achievements that we made insofar as the management of resources, because I was right there at the helm insofar as the resource management was concerned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndlela. Honorable Matebula.
Sir Chairperson, Mr. Ndlela, in your own opinion, what causes political interference in the administration? And if you are elected as a board member and you come across politicians who want to interfere on your work, what are you going to do? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable member. I think, look, this question is in 2 parts. Internally, what becomes an issue of political interference is the lack of separation of powers, if I may use the word. There's something called the board charter, which must be adopted by the board, which will say from point A to point B is the purview of management. This is what management deals with. And then from point B to point C is what the board deals with. Now, if there is a clear, defined delegation of authority, everybody knows what they need to be doing. So you're not going to find the chairperson of the board wanting to sit in an SCM process because that's not the role of the board. The board sits at the end of an SCM process where it looks into the process itself to say, was it done in terms of the triple P FA? And if it was, is there proof to that effect? So it sort of works like a mini audit. And if the processes are correct, there's a stamp of approval and it continues. Because remember, the board as an accounting authority still attracts liability, even though the decisions were made below the board. That's why the board must be taken through and they must be sufficiently comfortable that they are about to take responsibility and individual accountability of something they know very well happened. Now, it's at that level, internally, that's how you manage it. You have a clear board charter, everyone knows what they're doing. And then look, because this is a public organization, and it is one that addresses a very volatile, if I may use the word, sector of society, young people. You are going to have many people with different access wanting to influence one way or another. And I don't think it's wrong for people to want to influence. I think it's a natural thing. What becomes the issue is the one who's being influenced as a professional. How do you deal with it? How do you engage with either the politician or a super rich individual? Because the idea that interference only comes from politicians is, I don't think it's accurate. There are also super wealthy individuals who could want to influence you one way or another. So it's important for you as a professional to say, okay, I do hear you, but this is the process that you need to follow. Everyone must follow the same process. If at the end of the process, the person is successful, then so be it. But we are not in a position to do favors to people, whether they are politicians or they are super rich individuals, or even they are celebrities, because, even celebrities could want to use their celebrity status to come to you and say one way or another, hey, please help me this. So I do think there's a way in which you can address it as a professional in a way that instills your integrity. Because remember, Honorable Member, when I spoke about integrity earlier on, I did say that as one of the inputs, it is what, if you uphold it, at the end, it gives you what I call the legitimacy. And that legitimacy is what you thrive on, because once you lose that as an institution, it doesn't matter how many speeches you make, people just won't follow you. And when people don't follow you, the whole system crumbles. So it's important for us to have inputs which will give us the output, and the output is legitimacy.
How did you feel when you saw media, newspapers writing about you regarding this process?
Well, Chair, I must say, I've always been a person of the background. I've never been a person who takes center stage. Those that have known me, have always known me next to someone else, helping them out. So, to be center stage frightened me a little bit. But I must say, I was also upset that I was never given a right to respond, because the cornerstone of our democracy is such that when there is an allegation about you, especially if it's going to be published on a national newspaper, I don't buy that specific publication. I was not aware of it. I only learned of it on a Tuesday, that on a Sunday there had been a publication of that nature. So, and I've since written to the editor to say, look, I do believe that I was treated unfairly, because I should have been given at least a right, even if you don't publish what I said, but give me a right to respond, because I would have easily explained the process that whilst the words used on that article is that I was removed on the board, the truth is I am not removed on any board. I am still on the board. If today you ask who is on the board of Ezemvelo today, you will find my name. If you ask that question on the 1st of August, you might not find my name, because my term of office would have come to an end. So for a publication of that nature to write boldly and approve that I was removed on a board. That is a factual inaccuracy, and I was not given a right of response. So I did feel a bit upset about that. But otherwise, I looked at it and I was like, hey, maybe one has moved away from being in the shadows. Maybe we're coming out to the spotlight. I didn't really feel in any other way except for those two feelings.
You felt like a celebrity.
Yeah,
yourself, sir.
yeah. I felt like I'd made it. Well, for the wrong reasons, of course, but I felt like, hey, I've made it nonetheless. I've never seen my name on a newspaper.
Don't worry, even as we were told yesterday, we were disbanded, and that was not factual and that was not true. As the subcommittee, we were never disbanded by Parliament. So you just leave people to say whatever they think,
Yeah,
the
which
way they want.
Actually, I do think that there's a real problem of people not being responsible with the platforms they are given. When you are a journalist and you are an editor of a nationally circulated newspaper, to write something about anyone, you know, I mean, me, I'm okay, I'll brush it off. But to write something about anyone of that magnitude without giving them a right to respond, surely there's something wrong there. And I think it's a discussion that we could have any other day, because if we allow it to happen to people who we don't like, or if it's still happening to me and you don't say anything, the day it happens to you, there might not be anyone else left to say, but this is wrong. So we must be careful to stop things that are wrong when they happen, even to others, because if we allow them, they'll become a culture. Next day you'll wake up, you are written, and there's nothing you can say.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Mr. Ndlela. Maybe I must also take this opportunity to address that issue of yesterday, that the committee was, our subcommittee last year was not disbanded. Our report was referred back to the committee to address issues of demographics and geographical spread and the gender parity in terms of the list that we recommended to Parliament. So yesterday, we as the subcommittee, we wanted to respond to that, but unfortunately we were busy with our candidates, so we couldn't respond to that because it was said in this process. So we felt that today we need to address it properly, that the committee was never disbanded. The committee, the report was referred back to the subcommittee so that we can be able to adjust. Hence, the process started afresh so that all those things can be attended to. But thank you very much, Mr. Ndlela. We're done with your interviews. With your interview, we wish you well and fly safe back to KZN.
Siyabonga kakhulu. I don't take lightly that out of 1,000 young people, I made it to the 40. I do want to thank you very much. That is important to me. Thank you.
You have reached. Hi, Nomvula. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you please respond to my call quickly? We need to arrange for something regarding the sign language interpretation.